On a quiet summer day in New York City, a video call would unknowingly become the last moment anyone would ever see Salisha Ali alive. During that FaceTime conversation, nothing appeared unusual. There were no visible signs of fear and no indication that anything was wrong. But later that same day, Salisha Ali vanished. What investigators would eventually uncover would become one of the most disturbing homicide cases to emerge from Queens in recent years, involving dismembered human remains discovered months apart across multiple locations. And at the center of the investigation was the same person who first reported her missing. Salisha Ali was a 34-year-old woman, originally from Trinidad and Tobago. Friends and relatives described her as caring, resilient, and deeply devoted to her family. Like many people searching for opportunity abroad, she traveled to the United States hoping to build a better life. In 2023, while still living in Trinidad, Salisha met a man named Rapchan Simbu. Their relationship progressed quickly. Within a short period of time, the two became romantically involved, and eventually Salisha made the decision to relocate to the United States to continue the relationship. By 2024, she had moved to Queens, New York. The couple later married and began living together in South Ozone Park. From the outside, their life appeared ordinary. Neighbors later told reporters that the couple could sometimes be seen sitting outside their home or listening to music together. Nothing about their public behavior seemed alarming, but investigators would later allege that behind closed doors, something far darker was unfolding. On July 13, 2025, Salisha Ali was seen alive for the final time. Earlier that day, she spoke with family members during a FaceTime call. Investigators later stated that nothing about the conversation appeared suspicious. Salisha seemed calm and normal. There were no signs that anything was wrong. But at some point later, that same day, she disappeared. Her husband, Rapchan Simbu, contacted police and reported that she was missing. At the time, the situation appeared to be a standard missing person report. Police had no confirmed crime scene, no body, and no immediate evidence of violence. For investigators, the case initially provided very few clues. But as days turned into weeks and Salisha remained missing, detectives began taking a closer look at the timeline, the couple's home, and the circumstances surrounding the day she vanished. What they would eventually uncover would completely change the direction of the case. More than 2 months later, on September 22, 2025, sanitation workers made a disturbing discovery. While working near Idlewild Park in Queens, close to John F. Kennedy International Airport, they noticed a garbage bag that appeared unusual. Inside the bag, they discovered human remains. The remains were severely mutilated. Investigators found a human torso wrapped tightly in tape and rope. The victim's head, arms, and legs were missing. Police immediately secured the scene and began a forensic investigation. At that moment, investigators did not yet know the victim's identity. However, the torso contained several distinctive tattoos. Those tattoos would become a critical clue. Forensic specialists compared the tattoos with missing person records. Eventually, medical examiners confirmed that the remains belonged to Salisha Ali. What had once been treated as a missing person case was now officially a homicide investigation. As forensic experts examined the remains more closely, disturbing details began to emerge. Investigators determined that sharp instruments had been used to dismember the body. According to investigators, a straight-edged blade, such as a knife, was likely used to cut through soft tissue, while a saw was likely used to cut through bone. These findings suggested the dismemberment required time, effort, and deliberate actions. Investigators also believed the dismemberment may have been intended to make the remains easier to transport and dispose of. Despite the discovery of the torso, major portions of the victim's body were still missing. Detectives began searching nearby areas and reviewing surveillance footage from surrounding roads and neighborhoods. At the same time, investigators worked to reconstruct what may have happened inside the couple's home during the hours after Salisha was last seen alive. Months later, investigators continued building the case. On January 31, 2026, the medical examiner officially ruled Salisha Ali's death a homicide. Even with that determination, the investigation remained incomplete. Large portions of the victim's remains had still not been recovered. Detectives continued analyzing digital evidence, surveillance footage, phone records, and witness statements. Authorities also searched multiple locations across Queens, hoping to locate additional remains or evidence connected to the crime. For months, the investigation continued quietly in the background. Then another discovery would dramatically change the case. Late on the night of March 5, 2026, workers conducting cleanup operations near the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Refuge noticed a strong odor coming from a roadside area. Authorities were called to investigate. What they discovered was chilling. Additional human remains, including a human head, were located at the site. The wildlife refuge sits roughly 10 miles from the location where the torso had been discovered months earlier. Forensic testing soon confirmed the remains belonged to Salisha Ali. Investigators now had clear evidence that the victim's body had been dismembered and scattered across multiple locations in Queens. The pieces of the puzzle were finally beginning to come together. From early in the investigation, detectives had considered Salisha's husband, Rupchand Simbu, a person of interest. Several factors raised suspicion. He had been the individual who reported her missing, and he was believed to have been with her shortly before she disappeared. As detectives reconstructed the timeline surrounding July 13, they began analyzing digital records, phone activity, and other investigative leads. According to police sources, some of that evidence began pointing back towards Simbu. Prosecutors would later allege that the suspect attempted to conceal the crime by scattering the victim's remains across different locations. On the morning of March 11, 26, at approximately 10:25 a.m., police arrested Rupchand Simbu at his home in South Ozone Park. He was charged with several offenses including murder, obstructing governmental administration, tampering with physical evidence, according to prosecutors. Investigators believe the suspect went to extraordinary lengths to conceal the killing. Authorities allege that the victim's remains were deliberately disposed of in multiple locations to delay discovery and hinder the investigation. If convicted, the suspect could face decades in prison. For residents living in the quiet Queens neighborhood, the arrest came as a shock. Several neighbors later told reporters that the couple appeared normal in public. They were occasionally seen sitting outside together or relaxing near their home. Nothing about their behavior suggested the violent crime investigators believe occurred behind closed doors. The case has left many residents shaken. Some expressed concern that such a disturbing crime could happen so close to their homes. Behind every true crime headline is a human life. Salisha Ali was more than a victim in a criminal investigation. She was a daughter, a mother, and a woman who had traveled thousands of miles hoping to build a new future. Instead, her story became one of the most disturbing homicide investigations to emerge from New York in recent months. What began as a missing person report eventually became a complex homicide investigation spanning many months. Investigators uncovered dismembered remains scattered across Queens. Each discovery revealed another dark layer of the case. A garbage bag containing a torso, a wildlife refuge concealing additional remains, and finally, an arrest that authorities believe may bring them closer to justice. The legal process will now determine the outcome of the case. But for Salisha Ali's family, the loss is permanent, and the search for the full truth about what happened on July 13, 2025 continues.